Mixing too much in solo, this is a popular one. I've done it so many times, tweaking the vocals in solo to perfection, and then when I blend it in with the kick and the snare and the bass, it doesn't fit with the mix. Teaching myself to mix in relation to the other elements, having everything going on as I mix. When I started doing that and quit doing the solo, my mixes elevated quite substantially. Overlooking vocal sibilance when the S's become sharp and ear-piercing and unpleasurable to listen to, and when you turn it up loud, it really pierces your ear. Using a de-esser is a great way to avoid this mistake. Mic placement is an even better way to avoid, and you can also use multiband compression, dynamic EQs. You can also do it manually by using clip gain automation or just standard regular automation. There are many cures to the disease of exaggerated vocal sibilance. But being aware of it is good, and it's a mistake to disregard it. Spending too much time on details early in the mix. I'm not opposed to spending time on details, but everything has its place in time. Initially, starting out with the mix, you should do as little details as possible and think more big picture. When the mix is near done, you can zoom in on the details that you think are important and will drive the song further along the way until perfection. But as a rule of thumb, using no more than 30 seconds to a minute on each track is preferable. And then you can always come back to the track. So big picture first and then details at the end. Not focusing on the kick-bass relationship. This is a hard nut to crack. Using headphones is one thing. The finger on the cone of the speaker is another thing to feel nasty vibrations that shouldn't be there. That's a good way of figuring out if there's some harmonic clashes with the kick and the bass. Using sidechain compression to treat it. Using EQ to notch out frequencies that are clashing can be another way of doing it. Mixing only with the eyes or only with the ears. Everybody talks about trust your ears, don't use your eyes, don't trust your eyes. And I think that the eyes are good for hints. You can use metering plugins, frequency spectrum analyzers on EQs. They give you hints as to what you should listen for. But of course, it's a mistake to base a decision on what you see on a meter. But at the same time, you could use meters to give you some clues that you wouldn't otherwise have listened for. Because, you can't listen to everything at once. It's like you're always focusing on some element when listening analytically like that, like when you're mixing, and especially when mastering. Using presets and templates without understanding how it works, and especially when it comes to AI features, using it without the understanding can eventually harm your art. Study the craft and use presets to speed up time. I love presets. It speeds me up. I love templates. It makes the process so much faster, and you can get into the creative work at once. Which leads me over to the next mistake, and that's not using presets and templates and AI tools just because of there's an ego issue, or if you have the notion that if you use a template or a preset, you will sound like everybody else, which is not the case, by the way. It's impossible to have a preset on a compressor and put it on a drum and then another drum and make them sound the same. It's quite impossible, but there are good starting points and there are major time savers. So I use templates all the time when I mix. I always start with a template when I mix a new song, and I have actually a template pack you can download for Logic Pro. There are 6 templates specifically made for mixing. You can download for free, the link's in the description, and you can download it at subphotic.com/logic. Too much smile and not enough magic. So the smiley curve? That one where you boost the bass and you boost the highs, and then you get that really pleasable sparkle in the air frequencies, and then you get the booming bass and everything is just, and then you forget all about the mid-range where all the magic is. Our hearing is more sensitive in the mid-range frequencies from say 200 hertz and up until 5K. That's like our golden frequency range where we hear the best, and ignoring that range in the spectrum is a big mistake. So paying attention to that, making that sound as good as possible will elevate your mixes for sure. not listening in mono at times, especially when doing the pre-mix setup where you set the static mix, set all the levels and all the relation with the different elements. Doing this in mono will make it a lot easier. There's less information to take in. You don't have the stereo information from the stereo sounds that you may have if you have synths or a drum loop or whatever that are in stereo. You can mix a lot faster and make decisions a lot quicker because there's less information there. And checking back and forth in mono, flipping that mono switch. I love my Universal Audio Apollo Twin where I have the mono button readily available to just press at any time. It's a great feature, but also use just a gain plugin or a utility plugin in your DAW to flip back and forth. That's a good way to check if there are phase issues, for example, and mono compatibility, that it sounds okay in mono. Of course, it will always sound better in stereo, but that it sounds okay and that you can hear all the elements in mono as well as in stereo. Mixing too hot or too quiet. This has nothing to do with how loud your loudspeakers or headphones are, but this is related to how hot the input to the master fader in your DAW is. So for example, if you're in the red, you're mixing too loud. If you're at -1, I think that's also too loud because there's really not much wiggle room for you to adjust levels in the mix. My preferred level is when the master bus peaks at -3 to -6. I think that's my sweet spot. That's where I'm at most of the time. I've had some mixes that have been sent to me where the master bus is peaking at -15 dB, and if I haven't noticed that starting out because maybe I'm in a rush, then I've discovered later on that everything is too quiet. And when I've started with the compression and the processing, if I turn up the faders, everything will be off balance because then the compressors will have more input. So then I would have to use gain plugins across the tracks or across the buses to compensate for the low level. But you can of course you can always turn up the gain again, but it's a lot easier to just have a specific peak on the master bus, and for me, it's -3 to -6, and it saves you a lot of trouble down the line with using gain plugins and what have you. Not saving up for some sweet equipment. Gear. You always hear people talk about you don't need the gear. It's not the gear, it's the ear, and you don't need great gear to make it sound great. I think that it's a mistake not investing in proper equipment. So you need a proper computer, a proper mic, a proper audio interface, and that costs some money. And as you level up, you also feel the need to get some specialized equipment, maybe a vintage compressor or some hardware units or what have you. So a synthesizer maybe, who knows. I think it's a mistake not to at least have prospects about something better in the future. Sometimes you want to treat yourself with something a bit excellent. Not investing in books, courses, and coaching to get better results when mixing. I think that's a mistake. I've done all three. I've read tons of books on mixing and mastering. I've taken some courses and I've been coached by some pros, and that really accelerates the learning process. It's a lot easier when someone holds your hand and says, do this, and do that. And then you can just go along and then you can practice. I think it's a great spend of money. That's me. The free stuff will get you far, but I also like the organization and the customization of paid stuff as well. So the best of both worlds, I guess. But I think it's a mistake not to have the mindset of spending some money to educate yourself in music production and mixing and mastering when you're a musician and you want to deliver some great songs to the world. I think it's money well spent to become more competent. Now let me know in the comments which of these tips was most helpful for you. I would love to know. And if you like tips videos like these, check out one of these videos. I hope I see you there. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you hopefully there. Peace!